Hi guys, and welcome to today's lesson on endothermic and exothermic reactions. So let's take a look at what happens inside a chemical reaction. So all chemical reactions involve a change in energy. Why? Because if I have my reactant, the bonds between the atoms are broken and then rearranged and then formed again. So breaking bonds requires energy, while forming bonds releases energy. So the overall change in energy depends on which one is bigger. Did it require more energy to break the bonds than forming the new bonds of your product, or did it require did more energy release while forming the bonds than there was when the bonds were breaking? And that is what splits it up into two types of reactions. I have my endothermic reactions and my exothermic reactions. Okay, so let me introduce you a new concept called enthalpy. So enthalpy is the total chemical potential energy stored within a system. So in simple terms, it's the energy stored in the bonds of the substances. So during a chemical reaction, energy can be exchanged between the chemical system and the environment. And this results in a change in enthalpy. And this change in enthalpy, delta H, represents the heat of the system, of the reaction, which is measured in kilojoules per mole. And that delta H, that change in enthalpy, can also be called the heat of reaction. And that is the net change of chemical potential energy of the system. So remember, your system is the reactant and product molecules, while your environment is the surroundings of the chemical system. And that includes your container in which the reaction takes place, or the water in which the molecules are dissolved. And to determine your delta H, the change in enthalpy, the heat of the reaction, it's the energy of the product minus the energy of the reactants. And those values they can either give to you or you can calculate. They can give you a table with the energy required to either break or form energy released to form specific bonds between specific atoms. And you can calculate the energy required to form to break a molecule, or the energy released when a molecule is formed. They can also give it to you like that, or they can give you a graph and you can get those values off there. And this tells us the overall energy change of the reaction. And if energy is gained, your delta H will be positive, and if energy is released, your delta H will be negative. Okay, so now we know what takes place inside a reaction and the energy changes that occur. But not all reactions happen automatically. To start a reaction, we need activation energy. So the definition we have for activation energy is the minimum energy required to break bonds. And then once these bonds are broken, like I said, the atoms have to rearrange. But first, the atoms in the chemical system form an activated complex. And this activated complex is a temporary transition state between the reactants and the products. So you can think of activation energy almost like pushing a ball over a hill. So you need energy to get it to the top, and after that the reaction can continue. It will start rolling on its own. So I just need to give it that jump start for it to take place. So some reactions actually happen spontaneously. My exothermic reactions mostly happen spontaneously because it requires so little energy to get started that it looks like it just happens without energy being absorbed. But it didn't require a whole lot, while your endothermic reactions require a bit more energy. So since some reactions require more energy to get started, they have a higher activation energy. Now we have something called a catalyst. So a catalyst then lowers your activation energy. It provides an alternative path so that more particles can react and the reaction happens faster. But very important, your catalyst is not used up in the reaction and it doesn't change your delta H. It only changes your activation energy. It just lowers your activation energy so that it requires less energy. Your reaction requires less energy to take place, so your reaction happens faster. Okay, so now that we have all that covered, we can dive deeper into our endothermic and our exothermic reactions. So our endothermic reactions are reactions that absorb energy from its surroundings. So more energy is absorbed than is released, which means your system's change in energy will increase. Your delta H, your change in enthalpy, will be greater than 0. It will be positive. So remember, our delta H is the energy of my product minus the energy of my reactant. So you will see that my products have a larger value than my reactants, which means a larger minus a smaller will result in a positive answer. So that is why our delta H is bigger than 0. It's positive. So what happens is the energy is absorbed from the environment, which means the environment's energy will decrease, and which means that what I observe is my test tube actually gets colder. That's why I put it in blue. So your tube, your water, whatever, will get colder. While with your exothermic reactions, these reactions release heat energy into the environment. That's why I made it red. So more energy is released than is absorbed. So the net change in energy is energy released into the system. So the chemical system's energy decreases, which means your change in enthalpy, your delta H, will be smaller than 0. Your environment's energy will increase while your system's energy will decrease. So remember, if I have a small value minus a large value, it will have a negative answer. So that is why my delta H will be smaller than 0. And the temperature of my environment will increase, like I said. So your test tube will actually get hotter. You will notice an increase in the temperature of the surroundings. So a way that I remember which one is which, when is delta H greater than 0, does that mean it's endo or exo? So I remember endo, so that looks like a D. So if my delta H is greater than 0, it's an endothermic reaction. But if I can make it right like that, and then I just put a D there. And if I have an exothermic reaction, my delta H will be smaller than 0. So all I do is I extend this. So exothermic reaction. So let's look at these graphs. So you will notice this is the energy, like I said, of my reactants and my products. Reactants, products. So your delta H is the energy of your products minus your reactants. So if I look at it from this side, my delta H for the forward reaction, because remember, you need to be able to interpret these graphs as forward and reverse reactions. Not in grade 11, but they can ask you, but especially in grade 12. So if this is my forward reaction, this would be my reverse reaction. So the products will become my reactants and the reactants will become my products. But anyway, so for my forward reaction, this is the delta H, the difference between the energy of the products and the energy of your reactants. And your activation energy is this change in energy here, the amount of energy to get it on top of the hill, and then it starts rolling. So the same here for your exothermic reactions. You will notice it's a much smaller hill to climb. The activation energy is much smaller. So that is a key difference in these two graphs. And then at the top here, at the top of the hill, you get your activated complex. So remember, this is a high energy, unstable transition state. And what happens if I add a catalyst? Remember, your catalyst doesn't change the energy of your reactants or your products. It just lowers your activation energy. So the hill just becomes a bit smaller. So that is everything you need to know about endo and exothermic reactions and everything that goes along with that in the chapter on energy and chemical change. So if you're grade 11, this video would be enough for you for this chapter. But if you are in grade 12, remember this chapter is key in my reaction tempo chapters. So please go and have a look at that video after this one.